In the dead of night, with only the faint hum of security cameras and the distant shuffle of guards, three men vanished from what was thought to be an inescapable fortress. Mike Cook, the mastermind; Mays Stanley, the strategist; Paul Smith, the enforcer. Together, they orchestrated one of the most daring prison breaks in modern history. But how did they pull it off? And how did these three seemingly ordinary prisoners outsmart an entire system designed to keep them locked away for life? This is no ordinary prison escape story. This is the tale of how Mike, Mays, and Paul defied the odds, slipping through the cracks of a system that had underestimated them from the start. And it all began months before they ever set foot in that tunnel beneath their cells. Mike Cook wasn't just any inmate. Charismatic and calculating, he had a knack for manipulation and a mind that never stopped working. He'd spent years studying prison routines, analyzing weaknesses, and waiting for the right moment. He knew that if anyone could pull off an escape, it would have to be him, and he had just the men for the job. Enter Mays Stanley. A former military man with a dark past, Mays had a unique set of skills that Mike desperately needed. Knowledge of security systems, a steady hand when it came to working with tools, and an unbreakable will. Mike and Mays formed an unspoken bond, one built on the shared dream of freedom. Then there was Paul Smith. Larger than life in every sense of the word, Paul was the muscle. Years of surviving on the streets had hardened him, and he was no stranger to violence. But it wasn't brute force that made him valuable to the team. It was his fearlessness. In Paul, Mike found the missing piece to his puzzle, the man who could carry out the heavy lifting without ever flinching in the face of danger. Together, these three men would form an alliance that would bring a maximum security prison to its knees. Life in prison was monotonous, routine, predictable. Guards made their rounds at the same times every day. Inmates filed in and out of their cells with the same looks of defeat day after day. To most, this life was suffocating. But to Mike Cook, it was an opportunity. Every repeated step, every guard's predictable movement, these were cracks in the system. And Mike was determined to exploit them. For months, he observed. Where did the guards slack off? When did they look away? Which security systems were outdated, neglected, or poorly maintained? Slowly, the plan began to form in his mind. But this was no solo job. He needed a team, and it had to be perfect. He chose Mays Stanley and Paul Smith carefully, each for their own strengths. And so, the plan to escape the inescapable began. Every great prison escape begins with a plan, and Mike's plan was as daring as it was intricate. It started with something simple: tunnels. The prison was old, and beneath its foundations lay a maze of forgotten passages and crawl spaces. Mike's first discovery was a small crack in the floor of his cell, a crack that led to an air vent, barely wide enough to crawl through. But it was a start. Mays, with his military precision, began to dig. Slowly, piece by piece, they widened the crack, being careful to hide their progress from the guards during inspections. Every inch gained brought them closer to freedom. They fashioned makeshift tools from whatever they could get their hands on. Smuggled spoons, pieces of scrap metal, anything that could serve their purpose. But this was no hasty escape. Every step of the plan was timed perfectly. Every action coordinated to avoid suspicion. For months they toiled, chipping away at the concrete and steel that held them captive, working late into the night when the prison was quietest. Then, on the night of November 20th, 1990, the plan came to life. The guards were changing shifts, a vulnerable moment in any prison. With the tunnel complete and the guards' attention elsewhere, Mike, Mays, and Paul made their move. One by one, they slipped into the tunnel, crawling through the narrow passage they had carved out in secret. The walls were closing in, the air thick with dust and sweat, but they didn't stop. Freedom was just a few feet away. As they reached the end of the tunnel, the final obstacle stood between them and the outside world. A steel grate bolted into the ground. Paul's strength came into play. Using makeshift tools, he pried the grate open inch by inch as the others stood guard. With a final tug, the grate gave way. The cold night air rushed in. They were free. But freedom was fleeting. As the sun rose, the prison was in chaos. Guards found their cells empty, the tunnel exposed. A massive manhunt was launched, and the media was buzzing with reports of the Great Escape. Authorities swarmed the surrounding areas, searching for any sign of the three fugitives. Mays Stanley was the first to slip up. Weeks later, he was found hiding in a nearby town, his nerves getting the better of him. His capture led authorities to Paul Smith, who had managed to stay off the radar by blending into the criminal underworld. But Mike was a different story. He had always been the brains behind the operation, and he had no intention of getting caught. To this day, his whereabouts remain a mystery. Some say he fled to another country, living under an assumed identity. Others believe he disappeared into the wilderness, becoming a ghost in the system that had once tried to cage him. The legend of Mike Cook, Mays Stanley, and Paul Smith lives on, not just as a tale of escape, but as a testament to the power of patience, strategy, and the unyielding will to be free. 3 men bound by a single goal, an escape that defied all expectations, and a mastermind who may still be out there, free. The story of Mike Cook, Mays Stanley, and Paul Smith reminds us that no prison is perfect, and that sometimes even the most secure walls can crumble if you know where to look. So, where is Mike Cook now? Is he watching this video? If you have any clues, let us know in the comments below. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous prisoners are the ones who are still free. Thank you for watching Escape Files, where we dive deep into the most thrilling prison escapes, historical mysteries, and daring true crime stories from around the world. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay on the edge of your seat with Escape Files.